Hello, all you beautiful snow lovers out there. It's me, your favorite forecaster, Brad, here in the office. Been working a lot in the background today and last night to make sure that I get you accurate, good information right off the bat. I'm going to go ahead and remove my hat. Hope you guys are all having a wonderful day. Say hello in the comments. Don't forget to like, follow, and share. We're going to get started here briefly. We're going to give some people some time to get in here. I'm going to go on and make sure that I share the live. Man, some of my grays are starting to come through. Really excited to be on here with you guys. And we're going to rock and roll some good information today. So if you're on here watching, don't forget to share this live stream. We got a lot to talk about. Some things have changed a little bit as far as direction and what we're looking at. So we're going to give some people some time. We got about 4 minutes before we really kick off this thing. And I can tell you, I am probably more than excited than I ever have been about a snowfall forecast. Currently looking at the radar right now, and I am pretty excited for what's coming. I'm actually going to pop that up here for you guys so you can see it. That is a current live look at our radar and what is coming from the west northwest. So that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. Like I said, we're going to kick this off here in about 3 minutes. Pretty excited to have you guys here with us today for today's edition of Snow What? So just hang tight with me here. Got a lot going on in the background that I've been looking at. So this is going to be an exciting conversation for us all. All right, about 30 seconds. We're going to get this party started, everybody. Hope you're having a great Saturday. We went over to Kay's Cupcakes. That was awesome as well. You'll see that post come up here briefly in just a moment. All right, guys, we are here. We are live. It is 1 o'clock, Saturday, November 8th, and we are here for Snow What? So you're here with Huntington County Weather and News. We're here to bring you the latest and greatest on what's coming this weekend. So don't forget to like, follow, and share. We got a lot to talk about here, so we're going to dive right in. So we're going to jump into the radar first things first here. And you'll see what we're talking about as you look on your screen. We have that low pressure just northwest of Topeka, Kansas. Now, that gives us one little issue as far as what we were forecasting. So the low has shifted down a little bit. And as we look at some of the models that are coming up here in just a moment, this low pressure is actually going to sweep down around Evansville and the lower part of Indiana, instead right along that I-70 line, which is what we were assuming earlier. So we can see some of that rain starting to make its way into western and northwestern Illinois, and that's going to all push down. It's going to kind of hit that dry line. So if you look on your radar there, you see a little bit of a dry line there. That's going to affect a little bit of this. Let's see if we can. This guy right here is our dry line currently. So you'll notice there's a little bit of a low pressure system right here. That I'm not worried about. Got a little bit of a headache personally, but no big deal there. So what we're looking at is this low pressure right here. So that low pressure is what we're watching. So we have another low pressure up here in South Dakota. That's going to push up and up this way, which is going to cause this one to kind of come down like this, and it's going to do the same thing. So that's what's giving us our snowfall. That's what's going to give us a little bit of rain here later this evening and into tomorrow. That's when everything's going to kind of change up for us. So this is the first snowfall this year that we're going to see. These are the first flakes of the season for us. So it's also going to bring in a lot of cold weather. So if you see this low pressure system up here, kind of pull this in a little bit here. So this is where our jet stream's currently starting to dip, and it's going to come down something like that. And then by Tuesday, it'll work its way that way, pushing off out into the distance. So a lot of crazy things going on around right now. The National Weather Service does have a winter storm watch in effect up around South Bend, Elkhart, Mishawaka area. And they're saying between 6 and 12 inches of snow are possible up in that area. Once we get into these heavier snow bands, I'm definitely going to possibly look at going up Sunday to that area and maybe following some of them down here, give you guys a live look at what that's looking like up there. Will we see the 6 to 12 inches? It depends on where the snow bands line up there. So that's what we're looking at as far as that goes. Kind of give you a rough idea of what we're looking at as far as the weather models go. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Drop a comment in there and let us know how things are looking on your end. So we're going to go with snow what? So looking at the detailed forecast from the National Weather Service, weather.gov, this is where we're looking at our issues currently, okay? New snow accumulation, 1 to 2 inches possible. That's what they're saying currently. We're going to dig into that a little bit as far as what the weather models are showing us. The biggest question that I've had was our dew point. So right now we're at 39 degrees Fahrenheit. I was looking at dew points at this time being down in the 20s. So that would have gave us more of a dry snow if it came down at all because of evaporation and things like that. So it would take a little bit longer for the atmosphere to get a little bit more moisturized to drive those dew points a little closer to the temperature so we could actually get that snowfall. But right now that dew point is hanging on tight, and that's where the questions lie. So I'm going to switch over to the HRRR model. We're going to back that up a little bit. We're going to go into the precipitation here. This is typically what I rely on for forecasting wise. And typically I don't look at the precipitation all that much, but you can see that this still has that low pressure right around that Topeka area, and then it scoots across and then down towards, well, so this right now it's keeping it right along that I-70 boundary, okay? What we're expecting is that low pressure to actually be down around here. So if that happens, that snow rain line is going to drop down a little bit as well. So what is that going to do for us? Well, this is going to show you as that low pressure drops down into southern Indiana, just like I was talking about, and then that rain snow line drops down as well. So, and then we see that by 5 a.m. on Sunday, here in Huntington County, we are inundated in actual snowfall. So what's that going to do? A lot of people are like, Brad, what are you talking about? This is Spanish to us. But this is where snow what comes into mind. So right now, we click here in Northern Huntington. And I do that best guess precip type. We're looking at snow. I'm not going to get into the details. Ground level, it says 33 degrees. but that's at the 1,000 millibar level. If you don't know what the millibars are, that is the atmospheric pressure that's pressing down on the ground. We're actually about 950 in our neck of the woods. So if you go up to the 950 mark, we're definitely going to be below freezing at that time. And that's going to allow this snow to actually probably start to accumulate a little bit. So things have changed a little bit as far as where things are laying and what's happening. So that's why we're calling this Snow What? Now, Sunday morning, I'm not really expecting a whole lot. We might get a little bit of slush. We might get a little bit of accumulation on some of those grassy surfaces. But the biggest question I have right now is what that band is going to do and what it's going to look like for us. Because if we go back to the radar right now and we look over here in Iowa, so they weren't really supposed to get a whole lot of snow sticking in the area. But like I said, the dew points changed. And so they're actually getting accumulation. They got plow trucks out. They're salting the roads and everything. A lot. They got a big slushy mess going on over there. So a little bit unexpected from my area, but I didn't quite look into Iowa all that much. But that tells me that the dew point and humidity levels have definitely changed. So we're definitely going to have to pay attention to this later tonight as it gets closer, because if that low drops far enough, we'll be looking at accumulation by Sunday morning. So this has definitely been a tricky system because it's going to hit a little bit of a dry pocket right there. And why that is going to be a dry pocket is as this low pressure comes through and then coming from north to south, we start getting that wind push in. That's when the lakes are going to really start kicking up some of that moisture. And then that's going to get inundated into that system. And that's where that snowfall is going to come from. So if we go back over to the weather model, you can kind of see as we come in, that snow starts to kind of, and then over here in northern Indiana, lower Michigan, you start to see that snow pick up. That's coming off of Lake Erie, and that's just because that's where the winds are coming from, and that's what's causing that. So, and then you can kind of see as we get going on here, we get stuck in a little bit of a snow band for a few hours, and it all depends on the ground temperature and the dew points and what that's actually going to do. And then as we go forward here, we're going to get stuck in some snow bands off of Lake Erie and Lake Michigan. So we're going to kind of get inundated in that a little bit in this corner of Northeast Indiana. So what does that mean for us? One thing that I always want to look at is the dew points. Like I said, over here, it was a lot drier. We're starting to see the dew points rise a little bit. So that means that we're going to have a higher chance of that snow actually sticking because it's going to be a wetter snow. So then as we get in, so this is where we're starting to get in some of those higher bands. So we were well deep into the 20s, around 22 in the last model run. And this is what's causing some of this issue that I'm seeing, and where we could actually get bigger flakes and it could come down faster and heavier. So, and then as we go through, you see some of these snow bands start to form based off the dew points on Lake Michigan, and then that's going to bring us into Monday. So as we go through that, there's definitely a lot to think about. There's a lot to talk about. So by Sunday morning, I'm going to say we're definitely going to have a dusting. I could be wrong. We'll see. This is my first time really relying on Lake Michigan and Lake Erie to both affect us. So there's a lot of trickiness there. So Sunday morning could be tricky. It could not be. Right now, we're still forecasting temperatures to be above that freezing mark. And if you remember, when we talked, I was already talking about our temperatures being down to 33 degrees instead of 35, like the National Weather Service was saying, which is also bringing in some of this change. So if we come over here and we look at our temperature, I'm going to pull that back up for you here, get rid of my ugly mug, and what that's going to do for us. There we go. So this is today, and then everything starts to push down. That cold front that's here now and that low pressure is going to start to suck some of that air down a little prematurely. And then you can see that's Sunday at 2. Let's go back. I hit the wrong button. There we go. So this is Saturday about 1 a.m. Here in Huntington, we're going to be around that 40-degree mark. That's what it's saying right now. But as that low pressure drops down into southern Indiana, like we were talking about, you can see how quickly the temperature is going to drop. So, just in a couple hours for 37, and then boom, we start to get some of that temperature coming down from Michigan, and we're already at that 32-degree mark. And at this point, it would be 6 a.m. So the sun's just starting to come up, and we're getting inundated by that cold air. So it's going to be a little tricky. I'm just being honest. And then, we get a little bit of that warm air coming around from that low pressure system. However, it's still going to be cold. All right, 37 degrees. We're going to be getting that nice, cool air from aloft that's going to be a lot higher. So with the dew points that I was showing you, things, it's going to be right there with it. It's going to be a little dry, but I think the dew point's going to recover a little higher than normal. And those elevated surfaces are definitely going to get snow covered Sunday morning. So, and then the question remains, is it going to stick to the roads? I'm not 100% at this point. It all depends on what that dew point does and what that's going to do to us. So going to definitely have to pay a lot of attention as we get into this. And then the temperature just drops throughout the day. And then as we get into Monday, it's going to stay awfully cold. And this is the reason right here. So coming off the lake, you see it's getting awfully cold. The lake's obviously going to be above freezing. The lake temperatures are still awfully high. So that's going to get us some of that wind coming down straight into South Bend and Elkhart. That's where most of their snow is going to come from. And so I'm going to say that by Monday morning, if things cool down and calm down enough on Sunday, which, mind you, it's going to take a lot, but if it does happen, right now the National Weather Service is saying 1 to 2. I'm going to say 2 to 3 is possible. 2 to 3 may fall. The big piece that falls into that is going to be the lake effect. So just keep that in mind as we go through. This has probably been one of the trickier forecasts that I've had. So it's getting ready to go through a model run right now. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this bad boy and see if it's showing any changes. We're at 10 hours right now. So this is showing, oh, it's still the same. We're just going to have to do that. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to get it to update. So every hour, the HRRR model does refresh, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But it keeps us a continuous flow of information that we can use. So currently it's a 17, 11 available. So let's take a look and see what the latest model run's showing us. It hasn't really changed all morning, which is good. And that's kind of why I wanted to wait till about 1 o'clock before we really jumped in and started talking about snowfall. So yeah, we're only at 11 hours currently, so there's not a whole lot that I can talk about change-wise. So Sunday, like I said, we're going to get those snow showers overnight into the early part of the morning. Then things are going to move out, and then we're going to switch to lake effect. So how the wind sets up is going to be totally reliant on how much snow we get. 2 to 3 inches by Monday morning is not out of the realm of things. So let's stay tuned. Let's keep an eye on this. I talked a lot about 2 to 3 inches of snow falling Sunday, which is still very possible. Falling. The question comes to is how fast is it going to stick? How much is it going to come down? And that's all going to be dependent on the dew points by the time it gets here. So we'll be live on Sunday morning going over the snow that we have gotten already, and then we'll continue going through that path. And if things are really ramping up in South Bend where we think it's going to be, we might even go up there to give you a live look at what things are doing up there and even follow some snow bands back here. If we get stuck in a snow band with some of this wind, which is very possible, that could be interesting. So I've seen some models based off some of that information, and it gets interesting real quick. So let's pop up the radar again And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over kind of what that looked like. So let me get rid of that. So as these winds come through, initially they're going to be coming straight down the lake. And then they're going to come down and they're going to slowly shift, right? And as that low pressure comes around, that's what's going to bring it into our area, okay? So that is where the question lies. Is the wind going to set up in a direction that's going to really get us right there? Because what's going to happen is it'd have to curve down like this in order to actually get us. This is not a good wind setup for us because that snow is going to dry out before it gets to our area. So likely what I would like to see for us to get stuck in a pattern is that low pressure is going to have to set up over here by Toronto, which means it's going to have to come down like this and then shoot up. And then we get the snow from here and then it comes down. And then if we get it set up in a snow band, that's how that would happen. So we're going to have to watch for that. It's definitely going to be an interesting setup. So they had a winter weather advisory for up to an inch in Iowa. And I can tell you that that came out to not be as accurate as they were hoping to. They ended up getting a little bit more. So that's why I'm planning on the 2 to 3 throughout Monday. So from now to Monday, 2 to 3 inches is possible to be on the ground by the end of the day, Monday. But like I'm going to say very carefully, it all depends on where those winds set up, because that's going to be our big snowmaker for us if we get it. So if you have any questions, you want me to go over anything else again, let me know. I'm going to put it in the comments here just so I know I said it. I'm going to say the snow probability 75% of 2 to 3 inches on the ground by end of Monday. I have commented it. It's in concrete. I'm going to stick with that. If anything changes, I'll be on here to let you know. This evening, I'm going to be traveling to Dayton for an event down there. Thank you, Sarah. And as we come back from Dayton, that's when we're going to start to see some of this change. I expect to be back by midnight, 1 a.m. And if there is an update, I will be on here to let you know that once we get back. I can always log into my phone and let you know that way as well. So just bear with us here. This has definitely been a little bit of a tricky treat for us. And I'm hoping that we don't get stuck in a band, which is very possible. And with the temperatures the way they're going to be Monday, elevated areas could be a little tricky. So keep that in mind if you're going out for church Sunday or Sunday morning. Could be a little tricky in spots, but I believe it's still going to be above freezing. If we do get stuck in a heavier snow band, I'll apologize for being wrong right now. But I don't foresee that. Let's see where we are with the weather model real quick. Still waiting. If you want to hang out with me here for a few minutes, it shouldn't take much longer for it to really get cooking here. So I'm not sharing it because last night, I don't know if you were on here or not, but I was sharing the weather models, and the good old weather model went, "Hey, we're gonna change things up a little bit." And when it did, I was like, no, because it was like 8 inches for Huntington, and I was like, no. We're not doing that. And then I waited an hour and it changed right where I thought it was going to be. And I was really hopeful that was going to be awesome. So thanks, Todd. Do you have any questions? Let us know in the comments. Be more than happy to answer those for you. Like I said, I have spent an absolute monstrous amount of time in the last 2 days going over all the data and trying to figure this out for you. Like I said, this has been a little bit trickier for me to forecast just because you have both the lakes that are going to be affecting us in a way that this is a little trickier. So, as you get that easterly wind, that's what we're going to start off with, and then it's going to be coming straight down from the north. So it's been a little frustrating. Most of the time, if you get a direct snow that has a low pressure system that's going to pull that snow, that moisture from the Gulf or something like that, that's a lot easier to forecast. When you look at lake effect snow, I mean, there's a lot that plays into that. Lake temperature, how fast the wind's going to be, where the wind sets up. Kind of frustrating, to be honest with you, sometimes. So, but I'm going to stick with snow probability 75% of 2 to 3 inches on the ground by the end of the day Monday, depending 100% on lake effect bands. It's about as stringent as I can get on that. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot, but by putting myself out there, that's exactly what you do sometimes. There's a lot of people out there saying the trace to an inch. I've seen 2 to 3. I've seen 5 to 8 for our area. I'm comfortable saying 2 to 3. Ground temperatures are sticking right at the 43 degree mark right now, which means they've cooled down yet again. So if this comes through like a banshee, that ground could definitely throw us for a loop. So we're just going to hang out here for a few minutes. If you guys have any questions, let us know in the comments. I'm still waiting on the weather models to update. Should be about another 5 minutes here. So I'm going to hang out with you this time. I'm going to pull up the radar for you while we're waiting on this to happen. And yeah, if you have any questions about any of that, let me know in the comments. So like I said, that's the system we're watching right now. Currently waiting to get it all developed out. There's going to be a little bit of dry socket there to the south and west of Chicago as it comes through. A little bit of moisture cut off, and then we'll get inundated in a little bit of that snow come tomorrow morning. So and if you are on here, please don't forget to like, follow, and share. Share the live out there. It helps me get the word out a little bit. And really, I'm just going to kind of sell myself out there a little bit. I had a wonderful person from right around this area in Illinois actually say that she didn't trust her local weather service to give her proper information. She's been using the Weather Channel app, and we all know, if you've been following me for very long, I trust that about as much as I would a crack dealer with my kids. The Weather Channel app uses about 40 different models, maybe more, to compress together a best guess scenario for what could happen. Things really start to come together on that about 2 hours before the event. That's why it looks like it's accurate, but when you're looking from a distance, it's not really all that accurate. So we were talking a little bit. I sent her a forecast for her area. She seemed to have liked it. Kind of broke it down a little bit for wind and everything like that. She should see. If you would like that for your area and you're not local to me, please let us know in the comments or send us a private message. I'd be more than happy to get your own personal forecast out to you. And by any means, I don't necessarily see this as being a plow event, but it could change. It very well could change. It all depends on where that low pressure goes. So like I said, this low pressure, I expected it to be here and then kind of come through this area. And it's actually here, which is going to bring it down through this area. Okay. So that's what we've been looking at. That's the problem. Draw an X here, check mark here. So that is the big change today in what we were looking at. So a shift in a low pressure can change dramatically on what happens to the forecast. So let's go back, see where we're at on the weather models. We're updated at the 17-hour mark. And this is saying that 5 a.m., that's when we're going to start getting our first flakes. Could be as much as an inch. I do see some of that actually probably coming down a little sooner than what you're seeing there. A lot depends. So let's go up here and see what the radar looks like at this time. This is the latest and greatest as far as the radar goes. So you can see there's some of the flakes already. And this has the low pressure down there right where I was talking. It was going to be right through Evansville. That's not going to happen up there. So we see where that low pressure is currently right over here. And that is shifting it straight over. And then it kind of disappears just because the pressure is kind of a little wonky there. And then it brings it up. And then southern Indiana. So this is what I expect at this point. I've been going over the weather models. You kind of see the weather models a little tricked itself to where it's over here in central Illinois. I don't see that happening. I believe it's going to stick straight south because we have that pressure that's pushing south with the jet stream. So that's going to keep it down here around the southern limit, which is going to bring that snowfall and the rain down a little bit faster. And I think that's why we're going to get a little bit of a different snow pattern than we're seeing currently. So let's do a quick refresh here. See if we can get the HRRR to give us anything different. We can actually take a look at the NAM real quick. This should still give us the same quantification. You can kind of see where those winds set up. And that's going to have us a little bit drier. And you see that wind coming through there. And then as it shifts, that's going to put us back into that area for snow. So this is still not completely updated, but let's take a look, see what it does for us here. It may have fixed itself. There we go, right down in southern Indiana, right into Kentucky. And then right there, 5 a.m., we're all snow. So about 4.5 hours of snowfall for us, depending on what's going to happen with the ground. And then we start getting those snow bands. And like I said, it's all dependent on where those snow bands set up. This is the tricky part, guys. So let me back that up a little bit. You can see where these winds are coming around through Lake Erie. And what is that doing for us? That's going to give us a snow band off of Lake Erie, which is not common for us, all the way into Fort Wayne, and that's going to be in Huntington as well. So we're going to have to watch that. And then as these snow bands, you can see how heavy that is. What happens is, as these snow bands, they kick straight down Lake Michigan. So come up like this, it's picking up a ton of moisture, and then it throws it down that way. But what's going to happen is that low pressure is going to end up over here, coming up into Toronto, and get rid of that. As that low pressure sets up over here, we get the winds that come up around here, and then it's going to suck it back around. So that's going to put us in a little bit of that bullseye. So I think that's why I'm looking at the weather model saying this is actually a little bit wrong. And that's why I'm kind of changing things up a little bit. So as crazy as that sounds, I'm not following the weather models today. I'm using common sense approach. Because you can see that low pressure sticking here, going up that way. I think it's actually going to get sucked up here. So that's what we're watching for. That's what we're not hoping for. But if it happens, we're going to be here. We're going to be watching for it. I'm going to hold myself accountable come tomorrow morning if we have more snow on the ground than I expected. So I'll be watching this like a hawk. I guarantee it. And that's why today I'm calling this segment Snow What? It's just an overall tricky situation, folks. So if you have any questions, let us know in the comments. I'm going to give it about 5 minutes. I'm going to hop off here as we're sitting here together a little bit, jamming out. We're going to go ahead and look at the total snowfall for our area through Monday. You can see how we have that Lake Erie effect. And look at that, guys, up there around Detroit and everything like that, 24 inches of snow. That is very possible for the Michigan area, especially with those easterly winds that are going to be coming off the lake there and then coming south. So you can see how the swirling action is really giving that in there as it moves across, moving it down here into our area, 3 to 5 inches. That's why I'm saying 2 to 3 by the end of Monday. So keep that in mind, guys. I'm happy to be here with you. I can't wait for tomorrow to happen. I know my kids are excited. We're going to have to clean off the sled just in case. But man, oh man, can you see some of this up here? 11, 12 inches of snow coming off Lake Michigan. Up here we got the 10s, the 13, 16. These are all very possible. That is not. Oh, I thought that said 615. 24 inches of snow way up in the UP. Man, this could be a very crazy weather event. So hop back in here on camera for a minute for you guys. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Send us a message. Yeah, this is a very possible snow map here, what we're looking at today. So keep that in mind. 2 to 3 inches possible on the ground by the end of the day Monday. It's not going to stick around, folks. We'll go back over this 7-day forecast from the National Weather Service, kind of show you why that's not going to stick around. By Veterans Day on Tuesday, we're going to be a high of 40 degrees. Wednesday, brilliant, mostly sunny skies, high of 49. And then after we look at that, we're going to be getting up in the 50s by Friday. So just keep that in mind. By the end of the day Monday, there's definitely a chance we could see 2 to 3 inches of snow on the ground. National Weather Service is saying 1 to 2. We're going to see what's going to happen. I can't wait. Who's going to be right? All right, guys, you have a great rest of your Saturday. We're getting ready to head to Dayton. If you're heading down for Bombers and Brews, let us know. We're going to see you there. You guys have a great rest of your day. And don't forget to say, snow what? Have a great day, guys.